Hey everybody, Andy here. Welcome to my show. It's a Wednesday. We're in the middle of actually a three-part interview workshop. We're in day 2. Today's going to be about how to select the right job interview stories. Now, if you have just kind of jumped into this 3-day in a row program, yesterday was about how to introduce yourself in a job interview. Today is going to be about selecting the right stories, and I'll tell you about how that talk breaks down here in a minute. And then tomorrow we're coming back with how to ace any job interview question. Tomorrow, the whole entire program is something you ought to add to your interviewing repertoire. And today is going to be in 3 pieces. We're going to talk about some of the stories you need to be ready to tell no matter who you are, because they're staples. We're going to talk about, for one of the particular stories, because it's so important, that there are certain steps you need to go through to prep for it. So I want to make sure that you can dig deeper to have the most powerful stories related to the most critical story. And then we're going to talk about, we're going to do a little this or that. When given the option between story types, what should you tell versus what should you avoid? So it's going to be a great one. If you're here with me live, get in the chat, say hi. Let me see who's here so I can say hello to Dave Coburn, Stefan, Michael Tierney, Ann Hawkins Badge, Aylin, Rob Peterson, Barry, Truckerman, Stacy and Kara here with me, Terry, Helen, Steve, R. Baumgartner, and everybody else. Great to have you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get right into it. We got a lot to cover. Just so you know, the format of this workshop, I'm teaching, for about 75 minutes. We're going to have a session on my YouTube channel. Half of that or a little bit more is going to be teaching. Then we'll do some Q&A. And then if you are a member of my job search coaching program, we're going to be starting at 12:30. We're going to be going into a private coaching session. So if you're interested in that program, check it out, jump in, because we got after hours coaching throughout the week this week. And I am going to be leaving up these replays, so if you can't take this all in with me live, at least catch it on the replay. I'm not going to be taking this down. I know I get asked that usually when I do a workshop like this, so take some comfort in knowing you'll have access to this. All right, so I want to talk about story selection. I don't know that I've ever actually piece together a talk like this on my YouTube channel about selecting the right story in a job interview. I've talked a lot about what stories to tell, or the kind of stories to have in the tank, how to actually go about telling them. But there comes a point where you're trying to decide which story is going to score the most points, which is the story that I ought to be telling. And so I want to go through that today. And I think the issues here with interviewing is, you get asked questions, and you could get asked any one of a half a dozen or 8 questions that all would route you back to a singular story that you could tell, irrespective of the question that was asked. And the story that you tell, meaning the topic of the story that enables you to walk through what it is that you're going to share with them so that they could determine if you're a good fit, that really matters. And if you choose the wrong story, even if you tell that story well, even if it is awesome, you outline it, you give them what they want, all the benefits, all the steps, all the results, all the good stuff, you can still really lose points because the story didn't really connect the dots for them as to how you would solve problems in their environment, in their company, or shine a light on the skills that they needed to know that you have. So that's what I want to talk about today. Now, the first part of the talk is a very simple, quick list that I want to actually recap from a previous video that I did on the 6 best stories to tell in a job interview. So I created a video a while back about what 6 stories I would actually be ready for, no matter who I was. And here they are. Just want to make sure that you know how important it is to have these 6 stories in the bag. And what are they? What are you passionate about? Tell me how you solve problems. What value do you contribute? How do you develop people? How do you serve customers in particular, but your customer doesn't need to be a paying customer of your company. It could be a teammate, could be a community within your organization. And tell me about a mistake you made. Now, like I said, there's a video on my YouTube channel about the 6 best stories to tell, so I don't want to go too deep into these, but what I do want to, I want to mention a couple things about this list. It's really important that you're able to do that, because if you break down the areas that most employers are interested in understanding about you, I could probably get most of what I needed by the way on you as to whether you would be a great fit for my organization and perform well in the position based on how you told me those 6 stories. So how you solved a particular problem, what drives your interests, what specific value you can contribute, how do you influence the growth, the development of people, how do you serve the customers, and times you failed or mistakes or something of that nature. So I want to make sure number 1 point of today is make sure that you actually have stories, responses ready for those style of questions. Those are 6 of the biggies. But the one I want to drill down a little bit more into kind of the second part of this talk is about the problems. Now, if you are able to solve the problems that the employer needs, because that's ultimately what they're looking for. I have a problem. And yes, I have a problem in that I need somebody that I need to hire to help me, but I have a problem that I need to solve. And it might be a specific problem that you do as an individual. It might be a larger scale problem that the organization or the team is chartered with solving. But any which way, ultimately, your ability to get hired hinges on your ability to show the employer how well you would solve the problems they need solved. And that's ultimately why they're hiring somebody. I have an issue. I need to get it fixed. I have something I need to grow. I have something I need to build. I have a system I need to optimize. There's some type of problem that they're hiring you to solve. And if I was going to figure out how much time I wanted to spend preparing for interviews, I would spend a significant portion of my prep time trying to ascertain or discover what are the specific problems that they likely want me to solve. Now, some of that is going to come in through the job description. Some of that you're just going to need to be a good Dick Tracy and investigate, and there's ways to do that. So I want to talk about how I would spend some time in preparing for this particular situation, the problem that is. Ask yourself, so kind of prep number 2 here, what is it that are the primary problems or challenges they have? So just think about, the type of job you're interviewing for. You probably have a job description or at least a high level understanding of what it is that they want you to do. But how much time do you give to thinking about what are the problems they actually need me to solve? What's one of the things I talk with you about when I say if you're going on informational interviews, what's one of the first questions that you want to ask them is, what challenges are you facing right now? You want to try to do your homework so that you're actually considering what are the primary problems. Is it that they need to build a system? Is it that they don't have an automated way to track something? Is it that they build semiconductors? There's obviously hardware optimization, software optimization, all those other things that would go along with it. How do I actually build this the fastest, the cheapest? Whatever it is that they're trying to overcome. This is where you're going to win the interview, because this is the thing that they're looking for. Does this person have the skill set and desire to do this effectively? So this is something that I want you to spend a lot of time considering. Now, this is one thing to consider. How many of you, show of hands, let's go to the chat real quick here. But how many of you would say that you spend at least 25% of your prep time trying to analyze, assess, research, identify stories for that? If you're not spending a quarter of your prep time doing that, I think you're not spending enough time. How many of you would say that you do spend at least 25% of your prep time for an interview doing that? Let me know. Give me a yes or no. I really would love to know that, because you should be obsessing over that. That should be the number one thing. Second thing here, generally look at, based on their product and service, what would be the company's typical problems that they would have related to that. They are a small entrepreneurial organization that sells an app, right? What kind of problems will they have? If I'm the marketing team, I know they're going to have a lot of issues with trying to get their brand out there. I received an email from an app that's pretty new because I have a podcast, and somebody from the team on the app reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be included in their list of top mentors. Would I be willing to join the app? Would I connect my podcast? Would I do a number of these things? There's ways for people to discover me, and so on. Somebody on the marketing team did that, right? So how am I going to get the right talent, or how am I going to get people to use it, or how am I going to increase brand awareness? If I'm an engineer, aren't they going to need people to make sure that this is optimized for iOS and Android use and whatever operating systems that an app can be deployed on? Those are the biggies, right? So those kinds of things, what is it that they likely would need me to do, not just from my perspective, but in general? Let me look at the chat here. So a lot of you are saying, yes, you spend at least 25% of your time. No, some are saying yes, some are saying no, but there are a lot of people who do spend that amount of time. And so I want to make sure that you recognize that if not every moment of your life when you spend doing something is going to yield, right, the same as another moment of your life or another minute of your life. But investigating their problems is going to yield high stuff, as well as looking at in general. Just think through. Now, you could take it another step further, and I've just given you a sample here. But what if you did a LinkedIn patent, so to speak? Why not look at people at that organization who are potential teammates or work in the same unit, or maybe they work in a whole different region, in a different type of division, but they have the similar type of title and function as you would. Look at their LinkedIn profile. What are they talking about? What have they solved? What accomplishments have they highlighted? Why not look at their profiles and see, they streamlined this process that enables them to. They built an analytics tool that enabled them to. Right? What is it that they're sort of bragging about on their profiles? And you could look at their websites, employee profiles if they have them, any kind of employee case studies or messages that they're sharing, any kind of white papers, anything related to that talks about problems they've solved, accomplishments they've attained. It could also be awards. It could be that they're in the news for building something. It could be anything that's going to give you a clue as to what they're working on. That's going to give you ideas of what potential problems they have or what initiatives they're working toward. This is really, really going to help you if you do that. So just to recap this little portion here, I want to make sure you're ready with these 6. These are the big 6. I would spend the most time making sure that these things are in order. As far as the stories you're going to have to tell, I'm not talking about the tell me about yourself and all that other good stuff, but you can embody a lot of this in the tell me about yourself. Passion, problems, value, how do you develop people, how do you serve the customers, and the mistakes that you make. And the problems is, to me, one of the biggest things that you need to highlight, because most employers are going to be interested in your hard skills related to how you can do the function, which is in turn related to how you'll be able to solve those problems. So get that in order. Now, I get a lot of questions. Actually, I get a lot of questions, and we also seem to just surface this in the one-on-one coaching sessions that I do with members of my coaching program, my job search coaching program. When we do a lot of interview role playing, and this has been going on, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've mentioned in the past, I coach 10 or so people every week, so 10 unique individuals week in and week out. That's kind of a normal coaching load for me, couple 3 hours a day. And during these sessions, inevitably, a number of them want to role play. Or they say, hey, Andy, I'm having trouble answering these kind of questions. I'm having trouble with story to choose. And as I give them an opportunity to choose the story and then tell me the story the way that they want to tell me the story, I'm noticing that there are a lot of mistakes in the choice of the story. One, the spot they start the story. Number two, the criteria they think carries more weight when it really carries less weight. So I want to bring forward to you a half a dozen ways of considering, if given the choice, how could I find the right story that's going to score me the most points? And criteria number one, relevancy is always better than recency. Okay? So who's following me on this? What do I mean? If you have a project that best illustrates handling of their problems, their solutions, their initiatives, whatever it is that they're going to be doing in the future, and you did that 10 years ago, that's better to tell than something you did 10 days ago. Why? Because it's easier for them to connect the dots between what you did and what you will do in their environment. This is if you're telling a story which implies, for today's purposes, that you're telling a story about something you've done, not something they've asked you to do just yet, right? So relevancy will always be better than recency because you want to make it as easy for them to understand how you would operate in their environment, and it's easier for them to do that when you're walking them through a story that's just like what they're about to go through or what they've been dealing with without question. So given the choice, relevancy trumps recency. So that's the first thing. Second thing is strategic is always better than tactical. And by the way, it doesn't matter what level you're interviewing for. I'm talking about thinking bigger picture than thinking very, very narrow. And you might be wondering, well, Andy, hang on. They asked me a specific question. They want me to know how I'm going to handle this particular thing, and they just want me to tell them what I would do. Well, that's fine, but for the most part, 90+% of your stories need more context. We're going to cover some of that tomorrow or in the third part of this little series here. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So there's a woman who's in my program, and she and I were doing we did a couple of coaching sessions for a big interview process that she was in. She ultimately got hired, and I think she started yesterday. Or day before, sorry, Monday. And they were trying to hire her as a senior project and program and project management resource to build out their program management office. And there is a woman who's currently in that role who is trying to retire. And this woman is actually a contractor, not my client, but the woman who is currently working at the organization that my client was interviewing for. She's a contractor, and she was trying to sunset her career, and it was really on simmer for a long time, and they don't really have the right infrastructure and processes in place to run an effective PMO. So my client, my boot camper, was interviewing for this, and she wanted to have a discussion around how to score well in the interviews. And she was going to be meeting with the CIO and the C-levels of the company, and so we got together to prep. And one of the things that we knew that she would have to do is talk about how would you build out this program? What would you do? And of course, they're going to be assessing her for skills. And so when I gave my boot camper an opportunity to start telling her stories about how she would go about building this program, her inclination was to start talking about the methodology that she would put in place in order to build this program, and then how to run the programs. So all the different the program itself, to manage the office, to manage the different projects that she would run, because that's one of the things they needed, and they did need that. That's tactical in relation to that position. So what I did was I intercepted her and I said, okay, that's part of your story, but that's not where the story starts. Where the story starts is you need need to let them know the most important key success factors that need to be in place in order for you to make sure that when you do your job, which you will do successfully, these things need to be in place. So for example, how would you build out this program? Well, actually building out this program really starts with making sure that you have the right way to not just run the stuff, but to look at the business issues based on the company's goals to determine what the company wants to accomplish and what the right project set would be to do that, and the right project set from an inventory standpoint and the right project set from a sequencing of implementing the projects standpoint, right? Certain projects are going to yield more or move you along your timeline faster, and so on and so forth. So what that means is the first thing that needs to be done is getting with the stakeholders to understand what the business goals are so that I could effectively put together the methodology that helps you prioritize, review, analyze, put the proper business cases together, unify all this stuff, and so on. So you needed to take it up a layer or two. And then once that's done, I'll make sure that the methodology to actually run all the projects collectively is in place, and here's how I do that, and so on. All right, so she has to lift the storytelling, which she did, and they ate it right out of the palm of her hand. And then I got the text from her that says, oh my goodness, I hope I didn't oversell myself. But you get the point that that's where the story starts. And this is a situation where you have a choice of where to start the story. And so when given the option, you always want to elevate your discussion wherever you are in the totem pole. So remember this, the level at which you speak determines whether you get hired and what else, how much money you make. You start talking about how to put PMO methodology together, you might get hired and you get paid this. You talk about business stories, prioritization, goals, programs that allow you to prioritize, sequence, evaluate, measure, and so on, you get paid this much. So huge, huge difference. All right, number 3. Frameworks always beat point solutions. So strategy, elevating the concepts to the level of discussion that takes the big picture and goals into account. The framework is when you drop it down to the tactical level, but you don't talk about the one thing you're going to do. You talk about the sequence of events that needs to occur. So many of you have heard me say, you get paid more if you come with a playbook. You get paid more if you have a methodology. Sure, somebody who knows the 5 steps, the 7 steps. So when you're storytelling, you want to make sure that whatever you're picking has an ability, you have an ability to give them a step-by-step outline. I'm going to tell you, I went through the 5 stages. Hey folks, I have a program. It is the 5 stages of the job search, right? Self-awareness, right? Marketing, searching, interviewing, salary negotiation, right? It's a framework to it. Instead of, here's how you write your resume. What do I do when I get this thing done? Kind of thing, right? And so make sure that you are understanding that frameworks and storytelling with frameworks is going to supersede anything that's singular. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. So I don't want to get into the here's how just yet. I just want to make sure from a criterion standpoint, you understand it's always better to pick something that you can give them an outline and then walk them through the outline as opposed to here's how I just did that one thing. All right, number 4. Universal language will always whip jargon's butt, okay? So you want to make sure that when given an option, you can do one of 2 things. You can tell a story that will be universally understood by someone who knows absolutely nothing about what you do. I could, if somebody did not know how to job search, I could make universal language in how to do that. And even if I couldn't, at least if I could draw analogies to something they can identify with to make relationships of something they're familiar with will always supersede. I cannot stand when I have to stop somebody and say, what does that mean? If you ever get a question in an interview about what does that mean? You may as well just close your portfolio, get up and leave. Okay, so you want to make sure that the language is adjusted appropriately. The stories you pick to illustrate something for the HR person needs to be different than the stories you pick where you're getting a text screen. And even when you're getting a text screen, it doesn't need to be a technology screen, just your domain screen, you want to make sure that you're using language that's universal. Cool. All right, wait, we're on 4 of 6, and I got a bonus. If you are enjoying this, send YouTube a signal. Hit the like button. Share this, please. It really helps a lot of people. Plus, it helps the channel. So, hope you do that. All right, number 5. Now, when given a choice about being able to shift something into the future, if you go to the LaCivita School of Storytelling, you know that the future will always be better than the past. If there's a way for you to work the story forward, meaning you tell them the story, you chose a story, and you get to move it into the future, that's good. Now, there's a couple ways. I want to be really specific about what the context is that I'm speaking about at the moment. There is a great interviewing tip that I've shared with you ad nauseum in dozens of videos, that when you get asked a question about your past, I want you to tell the story that you tell, and then shift the discussion into the future and say, that's how I did it in the past. Is there an example or an issue or a problem in your environment that we could discuss so that you know how I would solve that issue in your environment? That's moving the discussion to the future. However, you might not always have that luxury. So in the middle of your storytelling, you can actually bounce to the future by asking them, or better, just stating it. If you're telling a story that is not completely analogous to what they do, then you have to make reference in how your story has context related to what they're doing. Meaning, as you're telling the steps, as you get through, and I'm in step number 2. So this is what I did, but in your environment, you would need to do that. Okay, so you're letting them know that while this is my story, I know what I would have to adjust in your environment. And all you're doing is picking a story and knowing that you will be able to have jump off points very quickly. It could be 10 seconds, but where you can take them into the future for a moment. Okay, that's called fracturing, but basically you're taking them out of the time zone you're in and you're moving them into the future, and then you're going to bring them back. Okay, so future will always beat past, and if you have you're gonna start your story because it's in the past, because it's something you did, but you want to be able to make sure you can make references to how this might apply to them. Why what you're telling them means you're equipped, because I know when I get into your environment, here's what we're going to have to do. And I'm going to give you a case study tomorrow about how somebody did this. All right, what do we got? Number 6. This is a good one. So stories that that check off multiple pieces of skills or have multiple stages of evolution always supersede a singular story. Let me give you an example. Another woman, a boot camper of mine, and I were doing some work. She's a researcher, well-educated, lots of work in the educational space, and works for or trying to get opportunities with organizations that build educational software. And as part of that, she is a researcher looking to get a research position, except that it's not just about researching and data analysis. In these particular cases, there's funding that she needs to have a skill set from a business development standpoint to actually secure the grant money or the funds or the investment money from outside entities, and then make the play to them as to how that's going to be used and what the reward's going to be and all that good stuff. That's a skill. Then there's the researching part and the domain knowledge. But there's also the project management part, where she actually has to run and execute the project in order to do the research, manage the resources, and get the data that they need, and then interpret the data. Okay, that's a triple threat person, right? That's 3 unique skills. Each one of those may or may not be good, may or may not be strong, except that when you get in a situation where you want to get hired for your bread and butter, and for hers, it was researching, but she asked me the question, well, Andy, how do I make sure that they know that I could do these other two things? Because I don't want to tell them a short story isolated at my bread and butter, and I want her to lean on that heavily. But in her case, it's a multi-pronged position, which means she's got to check 3 boxes, not 1 box. So you do not pick a story when given a question around, how are you equipped to do this job? Can you talk to me about a time where you've done something similar to what we're going to ask you to do? Can you tell me about a researching project that you did? These are all the same question, by the way, right? What makes you unique? And any of those questions can be answered by choosing a story that walks them through the whole process. Meaning, so when I was working with her, I said, okay, you have all these stories. Do you have any stories that hit all 3, where you took it from the beginning through the grant securing, through the running of the right project assemble team to doing the research and so on? So we had to then cherry pick which one of those stories to tell. So what I wanted her to do was to be able to use one story for 80 to 90% of the interviewing discussions, right? I've done that before. Here's how I did it. I had to do it all the way from scratch to finish, kind of thing. And so when given an option, that's the best option. Now, you might not always have that option available to you, but that's what I mean by going after multiple things. Now, because I want to make sure that, I know some of you follow me really closely, and you've heard me say you want to isolate your bread and butter skill down, except that she was interviewing for a position that required these 2 other skills. So while her resume and everything showed that she had these great researching credentials, we also needed in her storytelling to assure them that she had the business development side and the project management side. So those are the 6 main ones there. And then one other thing I want to add on the criteria is you have to be able to differentiate what is it they need to know versus what is it that they're actually asking me, because their question to me is irrelevant. It's what they need to know. And what we're going to do is tomorrow I'm going to break down a case study where I'm going to help you ascertain that. But ultimately, if you are ever in doubt when they ask you a question, there's a couple of ways for you to immediately figure out what is it that they actually need to know. And just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, if they ask you a question and you're not quite sure what they mean, like, hey, you're going to be a project manager, how would you prioritize the backlog of initiatives or the backlog? Now, if you're not sure what the backlog is, are they talking about a backlog of enhancements? Are they talking about a backlog of defects? And what's so tough about managing this, right? If you prioritize, you take your cues from the business people who should be driving the level of importance of these things. So I'm not sure what they're asking me, and I'm not sure what skill are they evaluating. Do they want to just know if I've managed backlog before? So what you do is you say, there are multiple types of backlogs. Is there anyone in particular you're interested in, or why is that important to you? Right? Or what's the most important thing for you to understand about my ability? I have managed backlogs before. Right? So what you want to do is you want to ask a quick clarifying question to make sure if you are not sure what they're trying to evaluate. Now, they might have sent signals early. The signals can come in the form of the job description, or the signals more likely and even better will come in the form of the questions that they previously asked you in the interview. But if this is a question that's asked early on in the interview, you're gonna need to be nimble and try to figure this out. So I just want to make sure that you recognize that don't assume that the interviewer knows what they're doing. They ask very vague questions and they're not exactly sure, and they wouldn't know the greatest of resource if they came up and bit them in the butt, right? Kind of thing. So you have to make sure that you're doing some of their work for them I know that's not fair, but it is your problem, right? So you need to be able to do this. So this is really, really important. All right, so I want to recap some of this very quickly. All right, real quick, make sure you got the 6 down. Passion, problem, value, development of people, how you serve customers, preferably, but basically serve, and the mistakes that you make. What are the primary problems and challenges? I gave you a few steps there of how to ascertain them. And then from a criteria standpoint, when given the choice, let's run through these really quick. Relevancy beats recency, strategic beats tactical, a framework always beats a point solution, universal language always wins over the jargon, past always beats or future always beats the past, and make sure if you have a multi-pronged story, you can tell that. You don't have to tell it all at once, but it's nice to have it continuously throughout the interview. All right, that's that today. If you found value in that, again, please make sure to like and share this video. Hope you're subscribed to the channel. If you're watching this on the recording, I'll see you next week. If you're here with me live, we're going to the chat. Would love to say hello and let you know kind of what we have going. I did say hello to a bunch of people. Let me see if I can kind of string down Steve Fenton, R. Bumgardner, Carmen Gomez, Kurt Atunga, great to see you yesterday. Ron Clark, Parveza, my boot camper, Medina Chow, Deb from Princeton. What is the good word? Okay, I see we got some questions coming in, and I got a couple of quick announcements, and I want to show you a few things. 11:36, pretty good. We got oodles of time right now. All right, so Carrot, thanks. Get me those, and let me just, I want to indulge me here for a minute. I mentioned yesterday that my job search boot camp, the coaching program, is on special. It's $500 off right now. So the interactive package, which is $997, is now $497 through June 13th. And we had a great, another hour and a half session yesterday after the hour and 20-minute public session, but we had that with our boot campers. And welcome to all those who jumped in. And if you are interested in joining the program, I just want to give you a few of the key pillars of what it's about. It'll only take a couple minutes, and then we'll spend about a half an hour or so going through the Q&A, and then I'm going to take a quick 10 or 15 minute break, and then I'm meeting with members of that program at 12:30 today. And let me tell you a little bit about what the program is about. If you're not familiar with it, it is an end-to-end, everything you could possibly need job searching program. It has 5 major stages to it. There's how to make sure you're well positioned to find the right career and thrive in it, and evaluate the employers, but most importantly, evaluating yourself first. So what's all the self-awareness and self-starting stuff? Then it's all the marketing material, so all the resume writing, cover letters, LinkedIn profile, personal branding, storytelling, everything related to marketing you. And then you go into how do I search? So bringing yourself to market. Everything you can imagine about targeting, hunting, targeting companies, hunting, networking, even if you had to go into the applicant trashing system. All of that good stuff is the third pillar. And then the fourth one is everything you need to know about interviewing. And the fifth one is about salary negotiation. It's all recorded, it's self-paced. So it's there for you to go through at your own pace based on when you can allocate the time to do that and how much time you want to spend. I give it to you all at once, so there's no waiting for anything. But the other aspect that's really nice about it is that $1,000 package, which is now $500, only through June 13th. This is for real. It's a hard deadline. Those individuals who select that option get ongoing online support with me, as well as live group coaching. So yesterday, today, and tomorrow is June's package of that coaching. Sometimes we do 1 session, sometimes 2 or 3, sometimes as many as 4 and even 5 private sessions in a given month, and they run all the time. So that's a really, really great supplement and bonus to that package. It's one enrollment, so there's no subscriptions. There are other services that I'll share with you in a minute, but basically those first three, well, everything on this page is a one-time enrollment fee. We have a great private community where you can interact with people in the program as well as in the entire Mile Walk Academy, where you can, I mean, it's like Facebook, but it's in a private environment, but it's much more effective. We have discussion topics and groupings, or they're called spaces, where you can get together with people in your programs. You can also direct message people. You can group chat, and there's other varieties and ways to communicate with them. It's a really good platform. And I do offer a 30-day return policy. I do have one-on-one coaching that I offer to members of this program at a discounted rate. Those are $500 for a given hour. We tailor that to you and what you need. I referred to a couple of the boot campers during today's talk and some of the topics they needed help with, but whatever it is that you need, whether it's getting the right direction, whether it's targeting companies, whether it's interviewing, whether it's salary negotiation, or whatever it might be, those are recorded for you, meaning we record the live session so that you have it, and we also give you the transcript. I also do resume reviews, and I do have a VIP package that has quite a few extras, including an entire marketing review. So I'll review everything for you. The program itself, this is what we had been running before May of this year, where there were a couple of options where you could get everything I just described for $600, and then often I would run a promotion for $100 off to give it to you for $497, and then I had a $2,500 VIP program. Last month we changed it, and these are the current prices now. So there's a self-study program that doesn't come with the online support or the live group coaching support, but you get all the other assets. That going forward is going to be $700. And then the package I'm offering right now, the $997 package, which comes with the online support, the Q&As, the online support in the system, and the private group coaching sessions, that's going to be $1,000 going forward post June 13th, and I'm not gonna be offering these steal of a deals for half off. We're doing one last hurrah. I felt like I didn't really give you enough notice that it was going up so precipitously, so I wanted to give you another chance, and I'm doing that this week, and then you'll see there's still the VIP option. Now, one of the things, so that's the package. That's the package that's actually $497 right now. Just wanted to make that clear. So, who's it for? White collar professionals. You might be great at your job, but you might not be great at job searching. This is what I do. Doesn't matter what your goal is, doesn't matter where you live, it'll work. What's it going to help you do? It'll help you find the right job faster. Now, faster is relative. And so the one thing that I try to tell people is, well, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and if you're more regimented and consistent, you're going to find it a lot faster. But the one thing I can absolutely promise you is you're going to have all the tools and assets and support from me to get there. Plus, a lot of what I teach is very applicable to your entire life, your entire career. It's difficult. I get this question a lot about, well, you got a lot of free stuff out there. That's true. I do. But number one, it's not everything. Number two, it's not down to the level of depth, and the tools themselves are much deeper in the premium program. They're much deeper, and there's more of them. The one other element that you have to keep in mind is the program is streamlined, it's organized, it's 5 years tested, it's in order. You do this first, this second, this third to get the compounding effects. Plus, you get the community and you get the support from me, which is not something that I guarantee I offer in the public. And while I do my best to answer my YouTube comments, it's just not the same as me assuring you that I'll respond to your questions when you put them into the system. I give it to you all at once. I don't like waiting for anything. You can keep it forever, no matter what program you're in. But if you're in the interactive package and the VIP package, you're also going to get support forever, as well as the group coaching attendance. So you do get the Q&A. You can ask me questions during the system. You can also be assured that no matter who you are, it'll work. I've seen just about every scenario, dare I say every scenario. I wouldn't be that arrogant to say that, but I've seen a lot, and it'd be really difficult to stump me. And even if I hadn't seen something before, we've got more than 10,000 people that have gone through this program. I'm sure somebody has solved your issue before. It's actually, we're in the high 100s of the number of countries of people that have entered this program, that it's worked for. All different ages and all different career goals. So some people just want to change companies. Some people want to change careers. Some people are executives. Some people are recent college graduates looking for their first job. It makes no difference. We've got something in there that supports whatever your goal is. I want to comment about the expense. I think at $997, it's a deal. I think at $497, it's a steal. And what a lot of people don't recognize, because it's difficult to do from a human nature perspective, and I completely understand this, you have to part with $500. But what I would say to you is, if you looked at it a little differently, and maybe juxtapose this for a second, if you earn 50 grand a year, that's about 25 bucks an hour. It takes you about, 2.5 days? Right? A couple of 8-hour days and a 4-hour day to make that 500. Is it worth it as a lifelong investment to have the assets? Is it worth it to make sure that you absolutely know what you're doing and you have the best insurance policy ever? Do you think that I and you as a team, not to mention the entire community, are going to be able to find you your dream job 2.5 days faster than you can on your own? And let's not talk about how long you've been looking already and been struggling, because all that time is lost. But you lose $1,000 a week not being in a job that you love, or if you're out of work, you're losing $1,000 a week, or if you're in a job you hate, it's going to take you a lot longer. So just think about that. And if you are wondering, I do offer a guarantee. The price is changing on June 13th, and I will give you a 30-day rebate from the time you purchase. You have a whole month to go through the program. I'm willing to do that because I want you to be comfortable. And yes, maybe there's been a person or two that's taken advantage of that, but I'm going to put my faith in your honesty, and that I'm confident in my ability to service you, that if you put the work in, we'll get you to where you want to go. So if for whatever reason you're not happy, you let us know and we'll return your money. So I wanted to go through that today, because I didn't really spend any time yesterday going through that. And my team has dropped the link in the chat. If you're interested in joining us today, we're on in 45 minutes from now. And it's going to be a Q&A session. You'll be able to get your questions answered, meet some of your fellow boot campers. It's really a lot of fun. And then if you can't make that session, just like anything, I take that recording, the private recording, and I put it in your training library, so you'll have access to it. We break down all the questions and all that good stuff. But during those private group coaching sessions, most of the time I'll teach on the latest trends and topics, maybe some new tactics. I'll bring forward what I'm seeing from the one-on-one sessions, what some of the common issues are that people are facing. If there's shifts in the market, you'll be aware of those. We'll go through them, and then we always do a healthy Q&A. So let's see. Elaine Marin, best money I ever spent on my career. Thank you for that. Ann Ernst is worth every... Oh, can we pull a few of these up? Just indulge me for a second. Ann Ernst is worth every penny. Thank you for that. Who was the other one? Elaine. Look at these folks. And by the way, I do have, maybe I could just cover my whole face with that. I do, by the way, if you're interested, just very quickly, I do have a whole page of stories. There's some video stories. You can take a look at all of these individuals. Some of these are videos. Some of these are quotes. Some of these are stories. I try to keep these, kind of balanced between different goals that people had. Here's a recent career changer, Rebecca C. from Australia, who was able to change careers and got a 25% pay increase. So these are all the career changers. I mean, we've got all kinds of stuff on there. This page goes on and on and on. So take a peek at that. You can get there from the main page. It's a whole separate page. I had to make a whole separate page, and it's really effective. So if you got any questions on that, happy to answer those. And Elaine, thank you, and Ann, thank you for that too. And any other boot campers who are here who want to share their experience working with me, please do. All right, Kara, let's get some questions answered. Let's spend the next half hour doing that. Laura Trucano Harp. Big thank you. Looks like it's in capital letters. I'm assuming Kara copied it, so it's really nice of you to shout that out. You are welcome. My first interview in 20 plus years went great. Used your any concerns about my qualifications and got a resoundingly positive response. Told one other candidate, you were told there's one other candidate and I'll hear by the end of the week. Sending you good Anderson Consulting juju, Laura. Danny, does the boot camp help with choosing a career path? Yes. So there are, actually, you know what? Let me, that is a great question. And if you give me 1 second, let me show you something. I didn't have this up, but it only takes me a click of a button. And let me see if I can do this very quickly. So one of the things inside the program is, hang on 1 second. You know, I just love when these things happen, and I had all of this stuff in order. Okay, here you go. This is the program, and I said there are 5 main modules. So in the main modules, this early stuff here, this is a main session on getting everything in order, your why, your requirements, making sure you understand what drives your happiness. And then sometimes people are not sure which route to go. Like, I'm not sure which career path to pick. If you want, you can look at the career changer. I have a career changer section where I outline all the different steps that you need to take to make a career change and pick the right path. If some people say, well, Andy, I want to get in motion, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm choosing the right path, then what I do is I teach you techniques to actually evaluate different options. So a 10-point formula to create more job options for yourself. So which path might I go? I also give you a tactic or tactics to get yourself in motion, even if you're not 100% sure of the career path you want to take. But I can assure you that if you stay within the guidelines that I give you, you will be proceeding down a path that will not be wasted effort, but will help you surface the right career path for yourself. So there's a lot of that support in there as well. And the one other thing for you to know about that is you also have me to ask your questions, or some people will get in with the base package, that $497, and then add a session with me to work through some of that stuff. And they'll say, hey, Andy, I worked through my requirements, but I still can't see it. I'm still not sure what to do, except I will know what to do, meaning I will be able to help you based on what you tell me is of interest to you, how to actually triangulate what the different career paths would be. And then I can give you different options and we can talk it through. We did this with one woman in Canada, and she had shown me her eclectic background, and we looked at common themes. We pulled together. I gave her different options of things that I thought she would be great at. And wouldn't you know it, she picked the first one I mentioned and she got a job that way, where she was really struggling. It was really, it was epic. It just, she did everything right because she put the work in, and then she leveraged my knowledge and expertise to help her choose. And then once we chose, I was able to tell her what tactics she needed to do to pursue that, meaning how to sell herself into that new role. And so we did all that in one session. It was pretty great, really great. So yes, that's a great question. Reply from Atuga, my man from yesterday. Hey, Danny, I am a current boot camper. It did help me answer my career path questions and do the work to transition. And Atuga, we got to if you saw the hot seats yesterday, he was fortunate enough to get called on in the private group session, and we were able to work with him as well. And thanks again, Ann Ernst. It was worth every penny. The Zoom sessions are awesome and are included in our library. It's really, really, it's really well thought out. It's really well organized for you. Deb Lemmy Show. Would you still use a story that is relevant if it took place during a position you might not have included in your resume because it was a little older? Yes. Final answer. I would rather you say in the interview, it's not on my resume, but I used to work for, boom. And at that time, I did this project where, it's all right. Deb, you got 50-50 chance that even if it was on the resume, they didn't see it, right? They probably, and even if they read the resume, doesn't mean they remember it. So it's not like you need the resume to have the bullet to say that. But obviously, I'd love it if it was on the resume, and I would like you to highlight a benefit and everything that you did to make that happen. But if it's not on the resume and the story comes up and they ask you a question and you have something that you can tell. Now, here's the only thing I would caution, and it's not really a caution, it's more of a prep. If it's something that's not on your resume and you might want to use it, I would try to rehearse it, meaning, so there was this time, the weather was 72 degrees out that day. I was sitting at this spot. If you could recall it like that, then all good. If it's, well, I've got this story and I'm a little hazy on it, that's not good. That's not good. So that's a great question. Stefan, you are a boot camper. A story includes revamping a process that was beyond my scope of work, department, and the subsidiary I worked for. I did it without being asked to do it. Should I mention that? So we're going to talk about this. Wait, great question. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. The thing that matters most in your storytelling, well, one of the three things that matters the most is the context and why you were doing it in the first place. So I want you to start a story with, the issue was we were losing money. The issue was I couldn't find this. The issue was we had no way of tracking. There has to be some way for you to introduce the story you're about to tell and why it mattered. If you say, well, there was this thing over here and I took the initiative to go and do it, I might say, why the hell weren't you doing your job? I might say that. I don't know, right? If they say, hey, Stefan, can you tell me about a time when you took the initiative to, you say, yeah, I did this thing that was out of my scope, out of my department, and out of the subsidiary, but I noticed that if I spent some extra time on my own on the weekend, at night, early in the morning, or whatever, and I did it, and I felt like there was this problem where, and so I took the initiative, I did it on my own time, and I did it. That's a home run story. The other thing is, it's this question I always get about, well, hey, Andy, I moonlight, and I have this extra job, and should I tell them that, won't they think I'm a real go-getter? Should I tell them that in the interview? And I say, hell to the no, because I don't care if you're doing it outside of work hours. I need you fresh and when you're working with me, and if there's going to be time where I'm going to need to call on you to work extra hours, and I need to know that you're going to be available, kind of thing. It's like what sounds like it might be a plus for you could really hurt you. So if you answer in the context I mentioned, that's cool. But I might not just say, well, there was this thing I did outside of the scope of my work. Well, then I'm going to start asking other questions. Well, how did you determine that you should be spending time on that? How did your boss feel about that? You're going to start getting questions that you don't want. But if they say, tell me about a time you took initiative or lead you down that path, then you go with that. Great question. Michael Tierney, great to hot seat you yesterday, my friend. In efforts to optimize time, outside of you providing new wrinkles or perspective each time you present a topic, how to approach consuming freemium versus premium job search content. Are you asking me how to consume my content? Michael Tierney, can you clarify? Is that what you're asking? Could you go to the chat and let me know that, and then I will tell you if I bought Andy's program, what would I do? I actually have showed you that inside the bootcamp. I'm going to answer D City's question. Oh, wait, Kara's typing. Hold on. Stefan, you're welcome. I'm at the bottom of the chat. See, let me know if that's what he's asking me. Oh, Kara's typing disappeared. Nope. I don't know what when I see Kara's typing, I don't know, and then I have to watch if I'm reading something and she's typing, because then all of a sudden it goes, and then and then all what I'm reading disappears on me. D City, you are a boot camper. I just realized I don't like my stories. Any suggestion on how to take it up a notch? I would think about I would work backwards. What are the positions that I'm going for? What are the problems that, meaning companies and positions, right? Because you target companies. What are the types of problems they have? Work your stories from there. Most people, I think I did this in a show a few weeks back, and I said, you think from internal instead of external, and that's the mistake. So D-City, you might be thinking internal stories when I want you to think external stories and then work backwards. That's the spot I would start. And then it isn't about taking the stories up a notch. The first order of business is getting the right story. Second order of business, learning how to structure and tell it. Okay, so try that. And Michael Tierney is, I don't know if he's actually responded, but I'm going to keep going. Parveza, my newish boot camper, how to select and talk through stories to highlight leadership and people management skills when you are an individual contributor but led projects in partnership with cross-functional team. Okay, so the leadership and people management are different things. You're not a leader because you manage people, and just because you manage people doesn't mean you're a good leader, kind of thing. Those are completely separate. But I think I think if I had to infer what ultimately you're asking me is, you need to show how you positively influence the others around you, and that is that is something that has everything to do with your internal traits and how you handle people with empathy, with understanding, with being open and welcoming and all that good stuff. It's the tactical part of, so those are the softer side, the tactical part of understanding who needs what, why they need it, and how you can support it, right? A customer might need this, a partner might need guidance, or whatever, a team member that maybe you're coaching, or a customer or an internal customer that you're doing something for has needs. I have some videos on the YouTube channel and actually you're in the boot camp. I have some things inside the boot camp that talk about leadership. I have a leadership coaching program, which I can't remember if you're part of, because if you're in that program, I have the stuff you're looking for in spades. Let me know if you are in that program, and I can point you to the areas that would give you the tactics that would fill the stories you would tell in a job interview. Let me know that. Angela Butcher, Andy, I'm so grateful for your job search, life coaching, and leadership programs. I recently got a 6-month internship, and I'm forever grateful. Wonderful to hear. Angela, can we give her a shout out? I know you worked the process. I really appreciated meeting you a month or so ago when we did some of those hot seats, and I'm so happy because I know you worked it hard. I really am. Janky, how to select a story or which points to include when they are looking to understand how do you improve the team's performance. They are looking for specific steps most of the time. They are. Okay, so this is let me see if I can get it in 3 minutes. It's an involved response. What I would say here is, when you are managing a team, you are, number one, a great leader. You need a story that kind of allows you to say this. A great leader looks at the team's goals and charter and makes sure that they recognize that each of the individuals on the team needs to be operating at full capacity from a production standpoint and full capacity from a happiness standpoint. Because that's the first thing. If you got a happy team that's moving well and moving well together, they're gonna create, right? The sum is greater than the individual parts kind of thing, concept. And in order to do that, the leader has to do a couple of things. The leader has to put the processes in place so that the team can operate, make sure that the team is enabled with the tools and the techniques that they need, and whatever walls need to be knocked down, but every asset they need. And the leader also needs to recognize that the leader is managing individuals, not a team. They're managing a grouping of individuals, and each individual is going to have their own feedback. I call it feedback language. So those of you that are in my leadership program, you know all these concepts. Each person's feedback language is going to be different, and it's incumbent upon the leader to learn the individual's feedback language so that they know how to communicate direction and feedback so that it registers with that individual. Some people need a pat on the back, some people need a hug, some people need a kick in the butt, some people need access, they need your time, they need more time. Whatever it is, you need to recognize that so that you can provide the right direction and coach them along the way. And then anytime conflict occurs, you want to make sure that the team is operating toward the common goal so that the team is not, it's not about whose idea it was or who's trying to prevent what. It's pointing everybody toward the greater good, the common goal. And so you're doing all of these things in a structured manner by putting the processes in place and outlining what they need to be doing together. Then you're handling them individually. Bosses, I got news for you. If you're on my team, I will treat you all fairly, but I will not treat you the same. Okay, that is, believe me, that is the best way to go about it, because not everybody has deserved to be accommodated for in a particular way. There's trust, there's longevity, there's ability, there's a lot of other factors that contribute to that. So that's effectively what you're doing. And you need to be able to tell a story where you had a goal, you had members. Now, the members of the team do not need to report to you. So maybe going back to Parveza's question about leadership and people management, you could be doing this without having the authority among these people, right, that you're their boss. There's actually a video on my YouTube channel about how to influence without authority. That's another one that you might want to take in, both of you, on that. But that's how I would look at that. Again, a lot of this stuff in depth and the steps is also in my leadership coaching program, which is another curriculum that I have if you're interested in that. Medina T's a leader. Hi, Andy. If an interviewer asks vague questions and lets me know they do not know what positions they might have available, how should I adjust my story so it wouldn't seem I was down for any job? And when you say I was down, I assume you mean that you were okay with. So what I would say is, if that's the case, so it wouldn't seem I was down for any job. I'm assuming what you're saying with the expression is that you want to make sure that you're telling the story and that they're not thinking you're okay with just anything. Then I would make sure that I highlighted the areas I'm most interested are. This is why. Here's the assets I have or skills I have that highlight that. And if you're not saying that explicitly, but you can be implying that through the stories you choose. I might kick it back to them and say, all right, you're speaking to me, right, as a possibility to work with your organization. What areas do you think I would be most suitable for based on my skill set, based on the resume? And try to work back and forth. When I get in a situation like what you're talking about, it could be an informational interview. It could be, hey, we're just talking to you because we like to, get a feel for the individuals who are out there and how they might be able to help our company. And in that case, I would always ask, if that's the case, so I'm the job candidate, it is your right to say, what challenges are you facing? Where do you have the most pressing needs? What's your most urgent need? What are the greatest challenges you're facing? And then tailor your stories to that, assuming you're okay with that. It's the way to go if you get in these situations where you don't have a set position. And I don't think you're in the boot camp. For any of you that are in the job search coaching program, I have a very detailed informational interview section. We have a whole session on this and a write-up for how to control the interview, what you should make the agenda, how you should approach it, what to say, what not to say, how to go through in the sequence to go through the discussions, and when you're done, what to write back to them. Not a thank you email. It's a completely different kind of correspondence going back. All of that stuff addresses what you're asking me here. But I know you're in the leadership program. I don't know if you're in the boot camp. That might be something you want to consider. Bjorn, on this day, hi, Andy, was offered a job I thought I was a perfect fit for. 2 weeks later, was called into HR and they terminated me saying I wasn't the proper fit. Wait, was offered a job. I'm assuming you took the job and you were there 2 weeks and then terminated you saying you weren't the proper. What can I do to avoid this from happening? So I would say that the short answer is watch my video on how to choose the right job. It's on the YouTube channel, and I show you how to break down your important factors, your requirements. Now, if they say you're not a proper fit, they could be saying you're not performing well in the job, and that could be a tactical performance issue. That I don't know, but if it's how to choose something, if you agreed you weren't the proper fit, those are the tactics I would check out. Jetting Chen just bought 2 of your mugs using money I heard from the job you helped me get. Jetting Chen is a boot camper in his new job, and I appreciate you, man. I wish you would have told me which mugs you bought. And then Michael Tierney clarified, maybe better to ask later, am I wasting my time freemiuming when I could be focusing on the premium content instead? Michael Tierney, you have access to the most robust and deep and organized job search training on the planet. I would first go in and go through it. And I would go through it and I would start working the process. I would come to these shows as an opportunity, and the bootcamp sessions, to ask me your questions and get reminders and reinforcements. And so the other thing is I have a coach, and I went through his training, like his bootcamp version of what he helps me with. And I watched his training programs, and now I pay a monthly subscription to once a month go to his monthly coaching. He's teaching me stuff that I already know upside down and backwards. But I go as number one, just to stay in tune and stay sharp, to see if he says anything differently than it might register differently. Maybe there's a new tactic I haven't tried yet. Those kinds of things. That's getting harder and harder for him to do, especially because the pace that I work and the stuff I'm discovering faster than he's discovering it. So I don't, I use it to break up the day and to break up my pace and to kind of stay in tune. But for you have an acute issue, meaning, right, you want to find the right job. And so for me, I would take the backbone of the boot camp, I would work it, and I would come to these shows as a break from searching. That's how I would do that. I wouldn't be living on my YouTube channel if I was you, because you have all the deeper stuff. Let me see. Oh, one other thing, and I'm gonna need to be rolling. This is there's a question: is it still possible to apply the cost of a previous purchase to the price of the job search program? It is. So somebody is asking about the trade-up program. We have a trade-up program in the Mile Walk Academy. If you've paid for a job search-related training program, those 3 things need to be in order. It has to be job search. It has to be a training or 2 things, and training program. So not a book, not like the interview book. So if you've paid for something like that, then we apply the amount you've paid toward the $497. So yes, so if you bought a $97 course, you'd only owe $400 if you wanted to trade up to this program. Nadia Gonzalez, is the leadership program from the boot camp? It is not. That's a separate curriculum. If you go to the Mile Walk Academy website, you'll see a leadership program. It's my monthly subscription, or you could pay annually. That is about doing well in your career and life. The job search boot camp, the job search coaching program, is about finding the right job. All right. Okay, 12:14. Folks, I got to run because I got 12:30 premium coaching with my job search boot campers. If you're not in the program and you'd like to get in, use the link or email us at support@milewalk.com. Otherwise, I'm back here tomorrow. Don't miss how to answer any job interview question. I got some good stuff tomorrow. I got some good stuff. And then again, that's at 11. And then at 1 o'clock tomorrow, I'm on with people inside the job search coaching program. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed delivering it to you. Everybody have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow, so it won't be long. And like I said, if you got any questions, shoot them over to support@milewalk.com because Kara loves email. Okay, and I love you all. We'll see you.